Captain Jeremiah Kraye, Cygnar Cavalry warcaster.
That man brings single-minded determination and dogged persistence to any fight. He will find the enemy, engage, and overcome. Major Marcus Siege Brisbane.
In previous centuries, salvation or doom was heralded by the sound of galloping hooves on the battlefield. The modern battlefield boasts the more fearsome sound of warjacks shaking the earth underfoot, but the meaning is unchanged. Captain Jeremiah Kraye of the Cygnaran Reconnaissance Service blends these old and new fighting disciplines into a doctrine of rapid, devastating assault. Kraye prefers to strike against an exposed flank or harass an enemy's reinforcements, and he instills his warjacks with an unprecedented mobility and crushing momentum. Jeremiah Kraye comes from a long line of Cygnaran officers. His father Sheridan retired as a respected colonel, and history records Jeremiah's grandfather Nathan as one of the finest generals to serve under King Ventor III. Jeremiah continued this tradition by graduating with the highest of honors from the Strategic Academy and entering the Cygnaran Cavalry service later. His early career coincided with the Scarred invasions, but he did not join in on that fighting. He served instead on Cygnar's often overlooked border defenders. As Cygnar allocated more and more focus to the Broken Coast, it had fewer soldiers to guard the hundreds of miles of borderlands that it had. The cavalry proved vital, and Kraye demonstrated he had the mettle to deliver crushing blows to his enemies. He learned how to make do with whatever supplies and resources the army could provide for him, and often relied on foraging to survive. He always found ways to achieve his victory against all odds. In a move that did lasting damage to his overall career, Kraye resigned his commission in 589 AR after his uncle was arrested on charges of treason and later executed by the tyrant Ventor Rawthorn IV. This was at the peak of the Inquisition's power, when they could arrest and execute anyone who spoke out against the king. Not until after the overthrow of the tyrant and the rise of the just King Leto did Kraye return to active duty. His reinstatement came at the urging of Scout General Bolden Rebald in 595, at which time Kraye avenged his uncle by running many Ventor loyalists to ground. He brought his extensive experience along Cygnar's borderlands to the Cygnaran Reconnaissance Service during the early days of the fledgling organization. With Cygnar's defenses once more stretched thin, Kraye remained busy, leading forces from one battlefield to the next. Kraye is an outspoken man of intelligence and education. His refined breeding shows through despite his grim, road-weary appearance. He enthusiastically debates military history, tactics, and strategy, but has no patience for politics and claims no ambition to higher ranks. He has a unique rapport with his trusted and experiencedly trained horse, Malagant, who responds with almost emphatic awareness of his rider's will. Malagant heeds subtle shifts in weight and pressure as instructions to rear up and shred enemies with strikes of his iron-shotted hooves. Kraye requires no accolades or praise for his service to the king and the army, only the opportunity to lead his jacks to war and deliver swift retribution against Cygnar's enemies. He's one of the few warcasters available to help defend Farin at the end of the Second Cygnaran Civil War, fighting to forestall a protectorate army allied with Ventor that threatened to burn the city to the ground. He is adapted to the crowning of King Julius, persuaded that the youth is very different from his infamous father. Officers who have fought beside Kraye can find the best fighting ground anywhere along Cygnar's borders, which he roams as a tireless and vigilant guardian. He needs only his horse, his warjack, and soldiers courageous enough to plunge into peril when he sounds the charge.